If you're a rally fan, you already know that Audi had to beg the FIA to lift the ban on four-wheel drive vehicles. And eventually they did, and Audi got to use their infamous Quattro system that eventually made Group B too fast. But that's a topic for a different video. But why was four-wheel drive banned in the first place? Aren't all rally cars all-wheel drive? There was a time where all-wheel drive was considered wizardry of sorts. All the wheels are moving, The tech simply wasn't advanced enough yet for it to be commonplace. For Gene Henderson, that wasn't a problem, however. The problem for Gene is that he wasn't a good driver. Being a police officer in the 50s and 60s, they were often tasked with chasing speeders, and he started to notice that they got away more often than he caught them. So he enrolled in some driving classes at the local SCCA, and eventually got more interested and started to race competitively. It was at this point that he decided to start doing some rallies. But he was becoming a good driver, and he was pretty successful as well. At this point, he started to get some sponsored races, even driving for a Mercedes and a Ford-backed factory team. Gene had a very extensive checklist that he would go through after each race to make sure that the car was okay. He would 1. Check for full throttle. 2. Put it on the trailer and check for full throttle again. The FIA International Championship for Manufacturers, also known now as the WRC, was coming to Michigan to run a 3-night, 330-mile stage rally. Now, this was the first rally in the United States, so Gene knew that he had to go. There was only one issue. He didn't have a car. He crashed his the race before. Gene didn't just want to purchase a car, he wanted to borrow one. Ford had reached out offering their new Lincoln Continental Mark IV. Gene turned them down because it was too big, too heavy, and too hard to trim into race spec. The next call was the American Motor Company. And clearly he would get offered a car that was smaller and lighter, right? Wait, right? They offered him the Jeep Wagoneer, which is an SUV. The Jeep would go through lots of rally-specific R&D. What they would end up with is a 5,000-pound car making 400 horsepower with 9 different shocks. Yeah, 9. How'd they get to 9? I don't know. It also had a bulletproof transmission. And with the invention of the Quattro-Track full-time four-wheel drive system, they were sure to be the favorites to win the rally. Yeah, I lied again. They were made fun of in the pits. A lot, actually. The two Jeeps were immediately coined the white whales because they were white and very large, just like your mother. I'm sorry. And so they were appropriately named Moby Dick 1 and 2. They were literally laughed at for trying to compete in a rally in one of these. At the Shakedown Rally, the two Jeeps finished 5th and 6th out of 40 that were competing. After this, people were calling for the ban of all-wheel drive, saying things like this is for sports cars and not for trucks, and they shouldn't be allowed to compete, which they were just making fun of them. So, like, you're going to switch up on them that quick? But the Jeeps were already approved by the FIA, so there was no turning back now. With all of that, the big names showed up to compete in the historic very first American FIA rally. John Buffum in his Mark I Escort 1600, the 3-car Datsun team, and the favorite, the Lancia Fulvia, driven by Harry Karlstrom. He's like Swedish or something. Buffum was leading the early rally with Karlstrom right behind. And finally, Gene was third. In a stage on night 1, Gene was able to beat the Lancia by a few seconds. Buffum had eventually crashed out of the rally, putting Karlstrom first, Gene in second. Rolling up to the start of a stage, Gene sees the Lancia that was supposed to be 10 minutes ahead of him. But why were they still there? They had brake problems and were just motoring through the stages. Like, they had no brakes, pretty much. They were running a rally with 0 brake. Henderson had then caught up to him on the following stage, and there was this 5,000-pound white Jeep Wagoneer shining its bright headlights into the rear window of the Lancia. Karlstrom drove faster, but it proved to be too much for the car, and they eventually rolled it. Day 3, and all Gene had to do was hold on to the lead while trying to help the second Jeep get as far up the field as possible. They were leading the car in second by over 8 minutes. Moby Dick 2, the second car, had finished third in the rally, while Gene Henderson and Ken Pogay, in the middle of the rally, they stopped to wash the Jeep so it would be clean as it came over the finish. You're in the middle of the race, in first. Stop to give her a little wash because she got some mud on her. Possibly one of the biggest show-off moments in rally history, but they had earned it. They had shocked the world and proved to everyone that the Jeep was the real deal. With their first race in the FIA and their first win, the team was going to compete in another rally. When the FIA saw that they had signed up, they immediately banned four-wheel drive. They made a car so good that people didn't allow it to race. In other races that they had raced in, not just the FIA, people were deliberately sabotaging the track, putting branches and stumps in the way because their Jeep was a little bit wider than all the other cars, just because they were too good. Gene had pioneered the techniques that would be used even today in all-wheel drive cars. When you see a rally driver, usually they don't use the brakes to slow down. They use the brakes to shift the weight to the front of the car so that they can slide the back and be pointed straight faster, because that's how you go the fastest. Usually they downshift to scrub speed because it drags all four tires. These are the techniques that are literally taught in rally school now. You didn't have to do that with a front-wheel drive or a rear-wheel drive car, but with all-wheel drive, especially one that was that heavy, you really had to, or else you wouldn't even be close. Gene single-handedly got four-wheel drive banned because it was too good. They came to America and they showed him, we got some stuff over here, man. We're not messing around. So that's the story of how the World Rally Championship banned four-wheel drive and all-wheel drive, and Audi had to beg them to unban it just because one guy and his Jeep. That's all I've got in this video. Maybe you want to see it. Maybe you like Rally. Maybe you like Subaru. Check out this video about the Subaru Rally team and what caused them to eventually fail. But other than that, I don't have much else. I hope you enjoyed the video. Make sure to like them. You know what to do. And I'll see you later. Okay, bye.